I want to talk about this, but at the same time, I don't because it's a can of freaking worms. But I'm gonna open it. I'm gonna open it, and I'm gonna let those worms wiggle around, and maybe they'll hide under my bed sheets. Maybe they'll crawl in between my toes. But I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna open the can of worms. The can's been opened. Let's talk about it. I did my first set of matches for Destiny 2's Trials of the Nine on Friday, and it was an absolute blast. I had so much fun doing this. It was the most amazing player versus player combat that I've experienced for a while. And I was surprised that it was so good. Not because I was surprised that Destiny 2 provided me with a fun experience, because it's been doing that since I purchased the game. But just because sometimes, from reading a little bit too much on Reddit and social media, sometimes I start to believe all the noise, man. Sometimes I go in and it's like when you watch a movie and you say, oh, that movie was pretty good. You know, like Bad Santa 2 or Rob, try something more topical. I don't even know. What's a movie that just came out? Here we go. So there was this new movie that came out on Netflix a couple of weeks ago called Bright. It was starring Will Smith and Joel Edgerton, and I thoroughly enjoyed the movie. It was about an hour and a half, 2 hours maybe, but it didn't feel long at all. It was a good old time. It was like Training Day with orcs and elves. It was fun. The average audience score is 87%. I would probably give it an 80. It was pretty predictable, but it was a fun ride. On Rotten Tomatoes, the critic score is 27%. So I look at that and I say, well, what the hell? Am I wrong? Like, did I miss something? I don't get it. And that happens to me with Destiny 2 all the freaking time, because I have so much fun playing the game, and then I go on Reddit and it's just a big pool of, this game sucks, the Crucible is bad, this is how you make the Crucible better, Bungie, you should do it like you did it in Destiny 1. And I'm sitting here like, wait, is it really that bad? I mean, I had fun. I don't know. You know, so what's the deal? I don't know. I like it. So that's what it is. So I go into Trials with that mentality that I'm not going to have that fun. I'm going to have this really sour, unpolished, unbalanced, frustrating experience. And I get in there and it was great. And leading up to it was a cool little arc, you know. It was a group of 4 of us that all went in together, and we'd been playing over the course of the week. We'd just been doing quick play matches and sort of getting to know our play styles and just having discussions about the PvP meta for Destiny 2 and just sort of having a team bonding experience. And when we finally do get into the Trials of the Nine, which is it's a really interesting concept with what they have going with Trials. It's a no matchmaking player versus player thing. So it's essentially this weird no holds barred thing where if you win 7 matches in a row, you get a ridiculous amount of loot. But if you don't, then you don't get shit. Actually, that's not entirely true. I think if you win 3 matches in a row, then you get access to a little bit of loot. But the more matches in a row you win, up to 7, then you get all the loot. Or something like that. I've only done Trials once. If you do Trials all the time, feel free to leave a comment explaining how it actually works and all the nuances of it. Just put it in the comments. I will pin it, and people can get the exact information. So we're playing together up to the day of Trials. It starts on Friday and it ends on, I think, Monday afternoon or something, or Tuesday afternoon. It doesn't really matter. And we go in there, and the first match, we get destroyed. And then we proceed to have a bunch of good matches, and we actually won 7 in a row. So we all got a whole bunch of loot, and it was a great time for all of us. And what was most interesting about it was that the first match, like I said, we got destroyed. A no lube. They were ramming it hard. It was very painful. I didn't like it. My teammates didn't like it. It was actually a bit demoralizing. We could have gone home with our tails between our legs, and nobody would have looked down on us because of the way we got our asses beat. It wouldn't be like, yeah, I understand why you guys quit and never came back. But we didn't. We stuck it out, and we kept winning. We had a couple of struggles, and then because there's no matchmaking in Trials of the Nine, we got really lucky towards the end. We got a couple of teams to go up against that we were just straight up better than them. They might have just been a bunch of random guys that formed a group together that said they wanted to do trials, and we just straight up steamrolled over them. And look, I ain't complaining. I got my loot, so fuck it. That's a bad attitude to have. I don't care. I got mine. Fuck them. The point is, it was a good time. But what was most interesting about it was that we were definitely conforming to the meta. Especially my teammates. They all had very meta loadouts. I think... Yeah, everybody had... There's this weapon called the Darkest before. If you play Destiny 2, you've probably seen it. It is an energy pulse rifle that has a very, very competitive time to kill, and it's ridiculously versatile. And we had a lot of very meta primary weapons as well. The Antiope D is highly sought after in the player versus player community, and we had a lot of those as well. And we understand the meta. We know what we're doing in the game, and we know how to manipulate it well. But our best matches and our most successful victories came from when we were confident in our ability to deviate from the meta, or just on an individual level, we were able to make a decision and say, okay, this is dangerous. This is a high-risk maneuver, but I'm going to do it. And if it works, then it's going to put us ahead in a big way. If it doesn't, then it's not going to work. But because we understood the meta, and because we understood consciously whenever we were breaking it, we were able to put ourselves in positions where we didn't feel bad when our poor decisions failed, because we knew why they were failing. And I feel like that's one of the reasons that so many people dislike Destiny 2's PvP, is because they want it so badly to be something that it isn't. They want to deviate from the meta without fully accepting it. They're doing stuff that's not with the meta, and they're mad that it doesn't work. And that's kind of dumb, right? That's like if you go to a place that doesn't accept credit and you get mad at them for not accepting credit because you didn't bring any cash, and you're like, "Oh my God, guys, why didn't you bring cash? Why don't you accept credit? You understand that I have a credit card and didn't bring cash, right?" You can't get mad at somebody if you know that they don't accept credit, but you brought a credit card and didn't bring cash. That's what it's like in Destiny 2. If you know what the meta is and you're consciously not playing to it, or you're trying so desperately to rage against the meta machine, even though you know it hasn't changed, then you're going to have a bad time. But if you play within it and understand it and deviate from it intelligently, then you're going to do some amazing things. And also, if you're just good at the game, then the meta almost doesn't mean anything. I've seen some people do some crazy things. All right, I'm gonna put a link in the description, if I remember, of this guy just straight up going ham in a bunch of clips. It's a little quick video if I can find it again. But the point here is that the meta is not necessarily a bad thing. Whether or not you like it is a different story, but it's not necessarily bad. And Destiny 2's PvP is not necessarily poorly designed just because you don't like it. I happen to think that it's very good, right? And because here's the thing. The simple fact that there is an overarching strategy and that works really well, there's nothing wrong with that, because every competitive game has that. If you look at League of Legends, there's 100+ characters, but you're not going to see the entire roster of characters all the time. There are a lot of them that just don't get played because they're not with the meta. And there's a lot of them that don't get played in certain positions because they don't work well there. But you don't see people getting ridiculously mad because Trendemir doesn't do well as a mid laner. Actually, I don't know if that's true or not, because I haven't played League of Legends in a long time. But based on what I know from when I used to play, Trendemir didn't do too well in the mid lane unless some shenanigans were going on. But does that make sense? Right? I think it makes sense. Hey, you can disagree if you want. If it doesn't make sense, tell me in the comments. And that goes for other games too. Even Overwatch. Overwatch has strategies that work and strategies that don't work. And if you consciously do something that doesn't work and say, okay, I know this doesn't work, but I think it has potential and it does work, then you'll have a good time with it. But I guess we have to continue breaking this down though, because I can't just leave it at, oh, Destiny 2 is not that bad, because just by saying that, I've opened the floodgates to some very lengthy comments about why it sucks. So I have to continue talking about why it doesn't suck. So the reason I think Destiny 2's PvP doesn't suck is because it's fun. Now this is one of those moments where I clearly should have written some stuff down, because this is very complicated. Now, besides the simple fact that I do enjoy Destiny 2's gameplay because it reminds me a lot of Halo, and the way that game's multiplayer was set up, there are some other qualities about it. I enjoy the fact that it's a nice blend of tactics, but also because the game has abilities and ultimate abilities that are called supers. It's like a first-person shooter MOBA kind of thing almost, where when it's, because my favorite moments in the Crucible are when people start getting their super abilities, because it's the equivalent of when you know somebody has Flash in League of Legends, or when you know Trendemir's ultimate is off cooldown, or let me use a more current champion. I don't know. That doesn't matter. But the point is, when you know certain things are in play, that changes the way you think. So if I'm in a match and I see, oh, the enemy striker Titan has his smash ready, if I see a striker running towards me from a ridiculous place and I'm like, why is he doing that? Oh, he's got the super, let me back up. I'm not going to try and challenge that. I'm going to try and put some distance between us, so maybe my teammates can focus him down while he's just bull charging me, or just I'm going to put myself in a position to where I know I can counterplay it. And even with the different weapon selection, right? You got submachine guns, auto rifles, scout rifles, pulse rifles. Some of them are imbalanced. Of course, the tuning of different things could be a little bit better. The tuning of different power weapons like rocket launchers and grenade launchers could be a little bit better. But if we ignore the fact that there are some balance issues with the game, the fact that there are specific strategies involved with different weapons and different play styles that you can adopt and use successfully, regardless of what the most optimal play is, that makes for a good system. I love submachine guns and the flanking play style, and I was able to make use of it very well in trials. There's a bit of a running joke between myself and the guys that I run with that I melee way too much. There's a weird statistic for me where I have over 1,000 melee kills, and I've only played about 500 games, whereas this other guy, who is significantly better than me at PvP, he's played about 1,000 games, and he only has 500 melee kills. I punch the fuck out of way too many people. It's a problem, and I understand that. And even in trials, the game mode where you're supposed to conform to Destiny 2's meta, where you're supposed to sit back and you're supposed to stay with your team and snipe the hell out of people with your scout rifles, your pulse rifles, vigilance swing. You're supposed to sit back and team shot, work together, coordinate, get those kills from long range. I was looking at my stats, and my most favored weapon in trials was still the melee. So I was still able to manipulate my preferred play style within this environment that caters to the meta, which is not my preferred play style. So how does that happen? Well, it happens because the system, it works. It's a little bit inflexible, and I will acknowledge that, but it works. The system does work, and it does have room for you to manipulate it. So that's why I like Destiny 2's PvP. I think I did pretty good for not writing anything down. I think I explained myself pretty well there. So where was I going with this, though? It's a fun time, though. If you've made it this far in the video, and you've been enjoying these little completely unscripted things, just feel free to let me know. And if you have anything in particular that you want me to talk about, then you can drop that in the comments as well. Obviously I don't always talk about Destiny 2, but I do talk about it a lot just because it's the game that I'm playing the most of right now. When I switch over to, I'm going to start playing Dragon Ball Fighter Z when that comes out, so I'm probably going to talk about that a little bit more. But there are plenty of other things that I do have plans to talk about in these, and I do have plans for making more scripted videos as well. So if you enjoy those, fear not, they're not going anywhere. I started making these kind of videos just because I just needed an outlet to just get opinions off my chest, I guess. I feel like if somebody with 200,000, a million subscribers can get on and rant about their fucking opinions, then me, the guy sitting over here that gets less than 500 views a video, I can say my opinions too if I want to. And, That's what I'm gonna do. So, going back to the whole PvP discussion, the Destiny 2 PvP, I think it's solid because it reminds me of Halo, but also because the system, as much as it restricts the way a player is supposed to act, and there are clear strategies that work and clear strategies that don't. If you understand how it works, you can branch out and do some really creative and amazing things. And there's a lot of room for skill. There's a lot of room for growth. That's one of the biggest criticisms, is that there isn't a lot of room for skill, but I don't believe that to be the case, because that discussion always goes towards weapon balance, right? You got sniper rifles, rocket launchers, grenade launchers, fusion rifles, linear fusion rifles, and probably something else that I'm missing. Those are the power weapons in Destiny 2. So those are the strongest weapons, and in order to use them, you have to pick up power ammunition from a different place on the map. Most people use rocket launchers. I, most of the time, do not, because they have really low handling, and or a lot of them do anyway, and I just don't like them that much. I prefer grenade launchers. And a lot of people prefer other power weapons. A lot of people love sniping. They love getting that 360 no-scope CSGO 1 dig. People love linear fusion rifles, but they don't use them a lot because rocket launchers are objectively better most of the time. Because the issue is, you can kill one guy with a rocket most of the time. Half the time, you don't even have to shoot on the same planet as somebody, and they'll still die from the radius of some of these rocket launchers. But you can also kill 4 people at the same time with a rocket. So that makes it one of the most versatile and easy to use power weapons in the game. So it's rightfully become a staple of high level play. But in that same breath, some people have gotten headshots on me that have made my heart stop for a moment. I've gotten a few headshots on other people that have made my heart stop. And I've said, damn, maybe I should do this more often. And then I go into another game and I get my ass kicked because I use the sniper. But just because rocket launchers are imbalanced doesn't mean sniper rifles aren't useful, because you can shut down long sight lines with sniper rifles in Destiny 2 regardless of how difficult they are to use. That's more of an issue of the tuning being off and the balance being a little bit wrong than the actual PvP being bad. That's why I always get a little bit like, I'm not sure when people say, oh, we should just go back to the D1 way of thinking. Whereas, no, I think the way things have been made, it works. It's just not balanced correctly. You don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Just because you made a new system and it's not perfectly balanced doesn't mean you instantly do a 180 and just go back to the way things were. But I guess we're getting into a weird territory now. I feel like we're at a place where we could go off the rails. I feel myself getting into a mode where I'm about to start preaching and getting on my high horse. So maybe it's just time to stop. But I guess the last thing I will say, though, is that one of the biggest problems I think that Destiny 2's PvP has is that it's always really competitive. And I don't mean that as a buzzword. All right, we're looking to be the next competitive first-person shooter. Our game is going to compete with Counter-Strike Global Offensive. I'm not using it as a buzzword in that sense. I mean that whenever I play, whether it's quick play and team deathmatch or search and destroy, or is that even the name of the mode? I don't even know. But there's a game mode where you got to plant the bomb. Whether it's that or team deathmatch, it always feels like strategy is the main thing that's going to get me ahead. It doesn't matter if there's a guy that's just super good on the team and he's able to get 360 no scopes. If the other team is more coordinated, they're going to win. There's not that much room for individual skill to shine. It certainly does in plenty of situations. I know when I've been outskilled in Destiny 2. But a lot of it falls more on the team, even in the modes where it's not supposed to. And that's the game's biggest problem, but it's being addressed by, in the future, the devs at Bungie are adding a 6 versus 6 playlist. As of right now, all the playlists are 4 versus 4, which means you can't really put the slack on other players. If you're sucking, there's hardly anybody there to pick up the slack. But with 6 people on a team, if I get killed, there's 5 other guys that can deal with it. They'll be fine without me. You know, it gives you more room to kick your feet back and relax. And there was also something nice that happened over the winter event, the Dawning. They had this special game mode called Mayhem, in which all the players' abilities recharged faster. So you got to throw more grenades, use more class abilities. You got to use your super ability, your ultimate more often. So if you play Overwatch, just imagine McCree doing "It's high noon" every 30 seconds. That's essentially what was going on. And that game mode was the fun time. That was okay, I just want to kick back. I want to just goof around. I don't want to think about strategy and corner peeking. I just want to throw bombs at people and make Michael Bay explosions. And it was great. It was great while it lasted. And I think it was about 3 weeks or 3.5 weeks that it was there. And now that it's gone, it definitely feels like there's a void in the Crucible where it's all just that sweaty, hardcore CSGO ESL tournament, fucking Super Smash Bros. That's not even the same genre, but you get my point. So yeah, there's all I'm saying is there's plenty of work to be done, but Destiny 2's player versus player isn't inherently bad just because you don't like it. And just because the meta is what it is, that doesn't mean the baby should be thrown out with the bathwater. That doesn't mean it needs to be completely redesigned. It just needs to be rebalanced. And those are 2 completely different things. And I firmly believe that over the coming months, the Crucible, which is already very fun if you're not trying to butt your head against it and trying to get it to become something that it's currently not, it's really fun. And over the coming months, it's just going to get more and more fun. It's going to get, the balance is going to get better. The weapons that aren't seeing a lot of play are going to get retuned. I have faith. I have hope. And even in the meantime, as I am sitting around trying to be hopeful, I'm still having a good time because I understand the meta, and I understand how to work within it, and I understand how to push outside of it to suit my own play style and my own idea of fun. So, this has been talking about Destiny 2's PvP. And I think I made a little bit of sense here. I think I said some good things. If I didn't, of course, you're going to tell me in the comments. If I've spread any more misinformation, if I've said wrong things, then be sure to let me know in the comments. But understand, again, this is most of this is just opinions. I don't think I said anything today that wasn't just an opinion about Destiny 2. But yeah, if you enjoyed it, I hope you did. If you didn't enjoy it, then I'm sorry. But with all of that said, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. And, of course, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And I'll see you next time.